The automotive hybrid gods must have heard me and said, well, let's just keep sending them his way. And well, this week is no different. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now behind me is the all-new 2023 Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV plug-in hybrid, giving you that all-electric range plus traditional option there under the hood. As I've always said, the best of all worlds. Plug-in hybrid vehicles has really grown in recent years and hasn't really been defined by one segment, really going to multitude of options, whether it be a two-door sports car, premium SUV, minivans, and even to the likes over at Mitsubishi. And that's what they aim to do, is redesign, reimagine what we think when plugging up. And the best thing is, well, the Outlander is no slouch, so adding that electrification to this vehicle will draw some attention. The best thing about it is the exterior design, really starting with that redesigned grille up front, sweeping nice tight lines down the side, and of course on this vehicle, two fill-up options, either the electric option on this side or of course traditional splash and go on that side. One big area I think that comes with electrification of the automotive world is the rethinking of grille warfare. And I think the traditional thoughts versus EVs is where things are really heating up and where people are going to see the most architecture in these designs. And certainly the Outlander lays it out pretty specifically and right in your face. Where it begins is in the traditional sense with the open airflow of the grille warfare. As you sweep up, this is kind of implied, no real operation up here, but riveted points to blend in like it's truly operational. What I really like is this Outlander emblazoned all the way across the hood. On the outer portion, this is really what we're seeing in the smaller SUV segment, is emblazoning up either with extra chrome and the LED lighting. In this case, the vertical stack here and the standard daytime running lights that happen all the time in kind of this bead lighting. But as you look, it's really sweeping around the front end, sweeping down. No blunt force trauma, which we do see with some of the competition. This really add a lot of airflow around this vehicle and a little bit of chiseling up here and there. What's interesting about the PHEV Outlander really is the multi-personalities that go with it, whether it be behind the steering wheel in the all-electric mode, creeping like a field mouse through the church parking lot on Sunday, or when you're on the open road and kicking those electric motors that get you ahead of traffic, or putting this vehicle in that all-wheel drive that gives it some off-road prowess. But also in a pinch, maybe it's that third row capability. All this vehicle making it, well, multifaceted. And where it starts is in its overall size. What you're looking at is about 185 inches overall, wheelbase about 106, width not too shabby, about 84 inches wide, 68 inches tall, ground clearance around about 7.8 inches. But what's interesting is the overall length doesn't measure up typically for that third row. And where you see that is, well, in the numbers on the inside. Arguably, all I could find is front and second row legroom, around about 41 inches in the front, 38 inches in the second. But as for third, well, it just doesn't seem to be on any piece of paper I can find. And the reason for that is, well, it really is there as an afterthought. If you need it, well, you've certainly put it in place and arguably slide the second row forward just a hair. And, well, maybe a lot of hairs because, well, it's going to need it to fit anyone there in the back. At the four corners, you got 245 55s wrapping a 20-inch wheel, and certainly that super all-wheel drive control on this model. Really known for this vehicle getting off the beaten path, though its regal kind of plushness, as you'll notice on the inside, really doesn't seem to be something I want to get into a scratch and ding affair. Now here at the back, typical business end of any vehicle, but one business side is the electric fill-up area. It has a traditional cable that you can use at the house in the 120 outlet, but if you do go to a DC fast charger, that will give you the all-electric mode in about 40 minutes, really giving you, again, almost 40 miles of range on all electric. And if you keep this vehicle somewhat local, you'll notice that you may stay away from filling this vehicle up on most occasions. As you sweep around to the business end, what I like back here is just a huge bank of glass, really give you great vision back here. You got safety components when it comes to backup sensors backup cameras. All this is typical on any sporty SUV. What's not typical is down here, which is again that third row, and of course the cargo capabilities. What I like is this one is a powered rear hatch. That's one thing I do find with electric vehicles is they really want to show off all the electrification, and so a powered hatch doesn't seem to be uncommon. What you're seeing back here is around about 30 cubic feet as it sits, going to be about double that as you lay the second row flat. But let's dive in a little bit closer at this third row option just to show you how it operates. Diving into the cargo area, first thing you notice is when the seat is laid flat, it acts as the cargo floor. When you want to have a third row of occupancy, basically it's real easy. You're going to reach down here, grab this handle here, fold it forward. Then you're going to hear it clearly lock into place. You do have numerically numbered little tabs here that really helps the functionality, and some instructions there on the left side. But once you want to fold the seat back up, just simply pull there, locks into place, and you do have these very somewhat tall headrests that does make for a somewhat of a blind spot when they're in place. So you're of course going to lay those flat when it's not needed. But if you want to leave these up like this, it does make for a nice corral down here if you have items you don't want to sling around, and even this area could be treated as a nice cargo compartment. One thing you'll notice once the seating is in place like this, well, arguably there is just no leg room as it sits. That means you're going to have to move the second row definitely forward to some point to give nice leg room for the third row occupant. But in most cases, it's going to be for smaller children or, well, smaller adults. So when it comes to climbing in the back, really you're not going to find a real direct route to there. There's no captain chairs here in the second row, and just arguably not a great angle to get in. But you do have this handle here. That's going to help slide the second row forward like that. Do not move this until you get back there, so that way you can kind of prevent knee bleeding. Now for me, my 6'2" frame, it's going to be kind of a nice climbing affair. And once you get back here, well, now it's time to find your position. Now, one thing to note, I get kind of claustrophobic, specifically with the feet down here underneath the seat in front of you, because I have gotten stuck in the back of a vehicle basically trying to get my feet out and wiggle out from, and well, it was just very difficult. So once you get your feet stuck before underneath a seat, well, you tend not to want to do it again. Now I've laid this seat down just to give you kind of a visual of what it looks like, and as you kind of lay this flat back, you'll notice that obviously this is very vertical, not comfortable for the second row. So you can kind of take this and move it back just a hair. Now, if you look at the leg room, if I look at the leg room there in the second row, just not realistic as this sits because it's barely about that far from the seat back. But I can find a little bit of comfort if it comes back a little bit more. Now, the hard problem is headroom. Now, what I'm noticing is there is a nice arch right through here. But if I sit back where you're supposed to be, well, it's just not going to work for anyone my size. So I would say the third row for the Mitsubishi Outlander, well, is really for anyone 5 feet or below. So when it comes to the power under the hood, or well, in the front and back, what you're having is a twin motor system utilizing the gasoline engine and front motor to drive the front wheels, and a standalone rear-mounted motor to drive the rear axle. That boasts a combined 248 horses and 332 foot-pounds of torque, and achieves around about 64 miles per gallon or equivalent. When it comes to overall interior comfort, leaving the third row nosebleed section out of the equation, really the Outlander delivers both in the front and second row, and the overall premium qualities, fit and trim. Of course, where it begins is front and center, the huge oversized touchscreen system. This specifically is showing the Apple AirPlay wireless, really allowing you to have great integration and ease of use. And if you sweep over to the gauge cluster, that is also a nice digital display. This one giving you tons of information, both to your implied analog speedometer and tach, as well as the various electric components going on, and naturally your typical fuel gauge over there on the right. Right through the middle is lots of information. This does have great awareness when you're on the open road, so it has that lane awareness. Not autonomous driving whatsoever, but it does allow for a little bit of kind of pull left and right to keep you in the lane, again minimizing driver fatigue when you're on the long trips. One thing I'm not a big fan of is putting everything under the infotainment cluster, specifically when it comes to climate controls. Thankfully, the Outlander keeps traditional controls down below, this being a dual zones up front, nice dialing specifically for your temperature, fan speed, and you do have nice wireless charging down below. Just take your so-equipped phone, put it down here. One thing I am noticing specifically with my particular case is it doesn't charge through it, so I have to take it out of that or get a different case for it to work. That's not a specific problem to the Outlander, but really all the wireless charging capabilities just don't work with this. I mentioned that super all-wheel control that Mitsubishi is known for. This is the dial-specific knob that you'll use, everything from econo, normal, to curvy situations, wet situations, snow, and of course, off-road. As for gear selection, non-traditional in the sense of just this toggle that goes up and down for reverse and drive. Of course, you do have paddle shifters on this vehicle. Not a big fan of that in general, nor specifically when it comes to an SUV. On the steering wheel, lots of controls here on the left side, specifically for entertainment, as well as changing that center cluster there on the gauge. As well as here on the right is your cruise control. This is that kind of radar-like feel. Once it's activated, really allows you to use all those sensory factors you see there to keep you out of harm's way, and just ease of use once you set it to kind of keep with traffic and increase or decrease your speed. As I mentioned, the vehicle does have 3 rows, but arguably that one should be out of sight, out of mind, and only used in those clutch situations. Otherwise, keep to the first and second row because it really delivers great comfort. What it also delivers is a tri-zone system, which again came as a shock because this vehicle is not that big, but this really is a premium luxury, dialing in your specific temperature as well as heated seats for the outer occupants on the second row. You also have, of course, connectivity down here. Another big thing you have that really helps minimize the heating up of the second row on hot days is the sunshade. That's found in the manual sense of just pulling it up, locking it into place, but it does help cool this vehicle down on those extreme hot days. So with this PHEV model, you could say Mitsubishi is taking the Outlander to the next level of opportunity, making this vehicle even more multifaceted with that all-wheel drive prowess, the fuel efficiency of nearly 70 miles per gallon, or, well, the all-electric mode that definitely gets you a quiet ride when needed. And with all that said, well, they threw a third row in there just for some extra bang for your buck. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.